We are in this together.
You have gifts that I don't have, and I have gifts that you don't have.
That we must see. Now is the time, because it's when we all get together that we will make the changes that we must make. We are the world.
Welcome to Malcolm and We, heard exclusively on malcolmpresents.com. And today we have the honor of having, you introduce Ayana.
Yolander Kelsor. Do you want me to go ahead and do the rest?
Yeah, do the rest, because you haven't told me about her. I just got your 10 minutes before the show. Right. I just got the information, which you were supposed to forward to me yesterday or the day before.
I did.
No, you didn't. I'll show it to you. You did it at 10:45, and our show was on at 11.
No, that's not right. Anyway, moving ahead.
I always blame her, even though it might be my fault.
Anyway, let's get going, shall we? Yolander Kelsor is a retired educator and recovery ambassador from the Cincinnati metropolitan area in Ohio, and she also served in many professional capacities in Kentucky over her amazing career. She founded Bridges to Hope, a prevention resource in 2013 to offer suicide protection and services to individuals for support and recovery, as well as extensive training to those working in this important field of mental health awareness. She was a multicultural outreach coordinator in the Sharing Hope program with NAMI in Lexington, and she was a consultant in the Kentucky Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. About herself, Yolander says this: there is no health without mental health, yet stigma keeps people from getting the help they need. As a retired public school educator, I have the passion to continue educating others about wellness, especially mental health, in a culturally competent way. Suicide prevention is very important, and giving people the tools to regain hope is key. Welcome, Yolander. And this is just very appropriate and apropos for this time of the year, with holidays coming and meanwhile other things happening in people's personal lives, as well as what's going on in the news and all the anxiety that causes. So thank you for being here, and take it away. Talk about whatever you'd like, and educate us, because you know it.
Well, I appreciate this opportunity so much. Thank you so much. I am delighted to be here today because mental health we all have it. And just it's
or not.
Exactly. And honestly, I think what happens is when we don't recognize that we all have mental health, we just kind of keep going sometimes until our body just shuts down. And when I had to retire early from a teaching career that I absolutely loved because of a back injury. And this back injury has now been 34 years in the making, because my son was 4 years old when it happened, and he just turned 38 in October. And so because of that chronic condition that I had going on, I ended up getting very depressed. And I had just finished my second master's program. And so I was I was just really sad that I couldn't do what I normally did, because I was just, I wasn't in a headspace where I could focus. And nor was I able to walk. And so I was actually at that time in a wheelchair.
Well, just to jump in for a minute, I have a spinal stenosis, and I've had it for like about the last 8 to 10 years. And every time I get up and I can walk, but every time I get up in sections. Hurts.
Me too. Mine's been going on about 30 years.
Oh, but yeah. Recently, the last 2-3 months, I've been taking acupuncture. And
Yes.
it seems to be working.
And that's what I was going to say. So the holistic approach to my health has allowed me to come off diabetes medication now. I have lost about 65 pounds. I'm no longer in a wheelchair. I work out in the pool. Those are just things that I enjoy doing. I was recently diagnosed with sleep apnea, but the machine has helped me to really rejuvenate my cells because I'm getting a good night's sleep for the first time in probably 40 years. And so it's kind of funny because my son and I started our CPAP machines around the same week. And but I'm thankful that he's able to get it much younger than me. But it's just a blessing, that I'm able to see that without good mental health, you can't make good choices for your body. And so getting in, learning about Reiki, learning about mindfulness practices, learning how to ground and center myself. I just learned about functional tapping. I just did a workshop on that. So I still go to school as much as I can and do all these amazing things. I learned how to do Jitsu as a way of healing. And so when I lead classes, I'm still working part-time. And so, so when I did there's a way to do functional public tapping. The lady that has taught me how to do this, we call her T. So if you look up functional emotional tapping, that's a way you can do that.
Could you explain that? I'm unfamiliar with that term.
Okay, she kind of broke it down like it's a way to center yourself and allow your frontal lobe to really connect. You might be nervous, or you might be going through a lot of anxiety. You hear something on the news, it causes you to be stressed out. So instead of sitting there tapping on the top of my head, and my daughter's saying, "Mom, that's very distracting," or under the eye, or the side of the eye, or under my nose, or under my chin, and as you're talking about whatever's going on, you can hold one of the acupressure points, like you mentioned, but it's just different meridians. With breathe and receive, that's another thing that I do, like if you're trying to, and you just feel like you can't get something done, then you hold your pinky finger. If you're feeling a lot of sadness, you hold your ring finger. And all of these things, like anger, grip your middle finger, because it helps to heal your gallbladder. If you're fearful, you hold your index finger. And if you're worried, you hold your thumb. And so it's just, you could sit and hold like this.
I'll be holding my fist.
There you go. See, my thumb is inside. Mm-hmm. Or, and it affects your lungs when you are sad. And if you think about it, you can't breathe when you're grieving. And I've had a lot of losses recently. The most recent one was my adopted daughter, who died in an accident in February. She was 29 years old. Thank you. And so she left behind this beautiful little at that time, 2-year-old who just turned 3. And so it's been a hard year. And not to mention, the death of multiple relatives this year. And so I found myself just sitting and holding my ring finger and just breathing.
Yeah, I hate to say it, that's what's known as life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so even though I speak to a therapist, I've been doing grief counseling. I was fortunate in this year of all this going on to be able to become a grief educator, being trained under David Kelsor. So, so I'm a peer specialist now for Ohio. I had been for Kentucky, and I lead classes still for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. But I had to take about 10 weeks away from all of that just to be able to heal, to begin to even just realize that Gina was gone. And so learning how to just speak the name of the person that you've lost and the ones that you love, especially with the holidays being here,
Yeah.
sometimes we have to rethink how we do the holidays. Because if it's too painful for you to go and celebrate with friends, or, if the expectation is, well, mom used to always make those cookies, even though my daughter said I must have cut them with a crooked knife. Even with that, I still couldn't, sometimes my mind just wasn't on it.
Yeah.
Or, if grandma was the one who did whatever it was, like I lost my great aunt almost 7 years ago now. That's how I ended up in Cincinnati. She blessed me with her home.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of things that, transitional things happen. We lost my son's father 2 years ago, and it was during the pandemic. So we couldn't have a regular funeral. We had a visitation, but it wasn't the same. I grew
Right,
up
but
where, yeah, I grew up where family came together, where friends came and loved on you. We could.
as I get older, what I realize during these particular periods, especially the holidays or whatever the holidays were good for you. Christmas, for me, it was like a lot of the Jewish holidays,
Yes.
when family would get together. But you concentrate on the good things that people gave you during that period, and you still can celebrate because whatever good memories you have are yours, and you think about them and it makes you feel good. And they're not there anymore, but you appreciate the times that you did have together.
Well, I think a lot of what goes along with grief is those things those emotions you don't expect to have, like anger and guilt, and which I think contribute greatly to depression. So, being able to just forgive yourself, like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have said that, or I wish I would have done that. But you just have to just forgive yourself, to just realize you did what you did at the time because you didn't know better, or there really wasn't, you didn't know what to say, or you didn't know what to do, and those are all human emotions, and just saying, well, I can try to do better next time. But when you're just so weighted down by those other feelings and can't find a way out, uh, and it seems like the things that you can do to help yourself feel better are just that, well, you're just trying to make yourself feel better, and that it's not a realistic, honest tool. It just
Absolutely.
gets
Absolutely.
stifling.
Well,
Well,
I'm interested in what you're doing with the suicide prevention because that's becoming
mhm.
the
Sure,
last few years very
sure.
big, especially among kids, which you don't really realize it because you think, gee, you're young. It's life is easy. Wait till you get older. But a lot of children get depressed and take their own lives.
Well, and one of the things that I'm doing to help me, because when I was 15, I became suicidal after my grandmother died. And, so when I do presentations for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, I just did one last night called Ending the Silence. And it was for a group of seventh grade girls. And we talked about how those numbers are so high now with young people, especially since the pandemic, and especially children of color. So it is truly a pandemic of loss that we are seeing. If many young people don't have a spiritual background anymore. They've kind of maybe moved away from that in their family and whatever their spiritual practice was. I was very fortunate that I did have that in my life. And so because of that, that's why I'm still here. That's why I'm able to talk to you today. It's just unreal how many young people are fighting so much sadness, and the stigma behind having a mental illness or being diagnosed with a mental health condition is what causes people not to speak up. Another thing that I want us to touch on briefly is how language matters, because when I say, and years ago people used to say, oh, they committed suicide. we shouldn't say that. It's like they, died by suicide, or, they were self-harming and their brain is sick. But I can't say to you, if I'm saying someone committed something, that's like I'm passing a judgment. And it's like they committed a crime. They didn't commit a crime. Their brain was ill. And so we have a lot of classes with NAMI that I help to lead. And one of them is called Language Matters. We have another program that like introduces family members and friends. It's called Family and Friend, or Friends and Family. No, Family and Friends. And it's another class that, we talk about. Some of these we do online and some we do in person, or we do a hybrid mix. And we have another program specifically for the African American community called Sharing Hope. And this initiative was revived because back when I was working for NAMI in Lexington, Kentucky, we started that like 2008, 2009. And, at that time I was working with National to help get this program together. Now it's a new initiative. And so it's really, working with people in the African American community or the African diaspora who, because we want to have those conversations because we've seen so many losses in our community and we're not able to talk about it in a respectful way. And because we're not able to talk about it in a respectful way, people don't feel like they have a safe space. So part of what our affiliate is going to do is we are going to have support groups specifically just for the people who come to the Sharing Hope program or initiative. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say program. It's not a program yet. It's still evolving.
Is it just in Ohio area?
No. It's a national NAMI program.
Oh, good.
But initiative. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a national.
Work with the youth coming out of prison situations, and then helping them join back in with their families? Because we have a partner who's very involved with that. So I need to get you together with her.
Wow, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome because, that would be a lot of those young people need this, need to hear this. And I know when I was reading the evaluations last night, we have an amazing PowerPoint video that just got done for ending the silence. We have amazing videos that are for these community conversations with Sharing Hope. We have one for the Latina community. We have one that's just been released for the Asian community, the Pacific Islander, so we're taking different people groups and making sure that that everybody can have their own culturally competent type of conversation.
Right, but the
How
question
about with the LGBTQ
there is a lot of work that's going towards different programs, and yes, NAMI does honor that and works especially with our LGBTQ, my friends say the questioning community.
Yes. In the old days, it was easy. All you said was gay, and that covered everybody.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question for you, which I'm interested. Each of the groups, any minority group or my majority group, have their problems. Whether you're a WASP or whether you're Jewish or whether you're Muslim or whether you're Black or whether you're Asian or whether you're Latino, is the thought process to commit suicide, even though it's caused by different.
Back it up. Die by suicide.
Yeah, okay. But even though there's different things that lead to it, is that thought process the same about the futility of life, about there's no hope? It seems like it has to go down to a basic root.
It leads back to trauma. A lot of this leads back to what trauma have I had in my past? What trauma have my ancestors brought? What trauma got passed down in my DNA? What am I still dealing with? What am I still needing to deal with? What do I need to still address? And when you're a marginalized person, you don't feel like you matter. That's why I wore my shirt, "You are enough." Because, I want people to know that you are enough. The back of my shirt says, "Dear person reading this, the person in front of you thinks you're amazing." And I do, because I want people to know, regardless of what's going on, regardless of whatever labels you have been given, that you are enough, you matter. And I think that's what is missing. And, and just the human touch, being able to just hug someone with their permission, of course, if that's if that's okay.
Right, yeah.
But the beauty of that is that that's how we thrive. That's how we survive. I was sharing with my granddaughter that if she puts her hand on her heart, she will feel her heart beating, and that she can always know that her mommy's love is right there with her, that she knows her nana's love is right there with her. Because we don't live in, we live separately. We're in two different states. So I don't get to see her like I'd like to, but we FaceTime, and I'll ask her, "How much does Nana love you?" And she holds her arms out like this. And I said, "Okay, we've got an invisible string." That's a book that we just got. The invisible string that connects my heart to hers, her heart to mommy's heart to us, to her, just all of it.
That's love and family. That's once you don't have that, that's when you become lonely.
Exactly.
And love and family can extend beyond, family.
Exactly.
It can be sent to other people. I remember when I've said this many times on the show, when I graduated college, going to therapy, going to analysis was like continuing education. It was to learn more about yourself. So this to me was graduate courses. And I found out the ones where I felt most fulfilled is when I would go to group therapies and I could relate to somebody, and not family, but people at the, as part of my group. And I could relate to them, and that feeling of love would be overwhelming. It's when they felt it and the other person felt it. But what I was going to say, as far as like suffering and persecution, it's which I'm beginning to feel this now with what's happening with Israel. I'm Jewish, and everything is coming out how the Jewish people have been persecuted from the last 2,000-3,000 years. And there's a quote that I put in my Facebook from Mel Brooks, and he said how you deal with tragedy of lot is laugh and love.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that's why the Jewish people have a lot of comedians, because they do a lot of laughing because of what they've been through over thousands of years.
It's the same way with my people as well. Absolutely. Because that gets passed into the DNA. I've been listening to Dr. Gabor Mady, and Dr. Mady has a lot of podcasts, and he's interviewed a lot because he is from a Jewish background as well. And he's retired as a medical doctor, but he is using holistic approaches to healing, and especially healing trauma, because he was born right at the beginning of the Holocaust. And so he shares in his books and in his, when you hear him speaking about the traumas that are part of our background. And sometimes that's where these addictions come from, because it's a way of self-soothing. So if we can learn, healthy ways to self-regulate, because we all have big emotions, but we maybe were never taught the best way to regulate them. Many of us were told, you have no reason to be sad. And then when I hear myself repeat this to my children, it was because that was what I got. So now that my children are adults, I'm trying to apologize to them, because when you know better, you do better.
Well, my
and
favorite,
you forgive yourself too, right?
That's what I'm having to work on,
my,
is
my
that part right there.
one of my favorite quotes is from a friend's grandmother, and she used to say, three parts of life: you live, you suffer, you die. In between, you have to have fun. These are all things that you have to accept. You're going,
Wow.
you're living and you're going to suffer. There's going to be parts of your life that,
Yes.
again, people are going to pass away, misfortunes are going to help
Because that which
you,
brings
and
you
you're suffering.
joy
So you
also
have
brings
to
you
learn to
sorrow.
accept the suffering,
Yeah,
because then at the end, everybody dies.
right.
That's true.
Well, Yolanda, we have to have you back because this is a big, 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 big subject. And we, the world, right, we're here now that's December 1st, starting this month and through the end of February, we are going to be manifesting the dream of Martin Luther King. And so we're going to be really trying to showcase and feature a lot of people who are working along those lines towards what Martin Luther King stood for and fought for and died for. And so I will be trying to get into contact with you about that and see if you have any ideas about how we can feature what you do and Nami and all your connections. But Malcolm, we have to have her back.
Oh, definitely. But anyway, also, again, the older I'm getting, the more I see is things don't change.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't change human nature.
True.
And what you have to do is you have to learn to accept.
Yes.
You have to learn, as I say, this is part of life. It's not my fault. It's not anybody's fault. This is it. And again, I see these things with the what happened to October 7th in Israel, and I see like there's also a thing with Joan Rivers, and what she says, which was probably I think about in 19 86 or something. It's the same thing that's happening today. So if you go back in history, nothing changes.
Absolutely.
But there's more awareness.
Well, there's more communications now, because something happens in any place around. That's one of the reasons why people might be getting depressed, because anything that happens around the world, you turn on CNN or Fox, you hear it in 2 minutes.
Exactly.
And I think the first time that you saw the ravages of war was Vietnam, where they had live cameras there. And the thing that stopped it is also when they did the body counts. I don't know if you remember that, but they had the how many Vietnamese were killed and how many Americans were killed, but people were dead. And we saw it for the first time because we really didn't. World War II or before, there were no cameras there. We saw it in newsreels years later.
Mm-hmm.
But now you see the bombings in Gaza or Israel, and you see the tortures. But again, this has been the same. I don't know whether to change it. You have to, fight against it, but mentally you have to say, this is what's going to happen. It's like the ocean's tide. The tide comes in and out, in and out. That's why I love walking by the ocean, because when I walk by the ocean, I don't feel as important. Why? Because this has been going on for millenniums.
Mm-hmm.
And it will go.
That's nice. The water and the rhythmic.
Yeah, well, it's also how insignificant we are. We think that
Absolutely.
we're the center of the world. We're not. We're, our life periods, whether it be, 30 years or 100 years.
But we can come together
Think of
and
a
work
lie.
for better.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is,
We can do this.
yeah, and people feel, I don't know, again,
With the tools of communication, we can make a change, is what you're trying to say.
yeah. Well, there was one time when my father passed away, I was 18, 17. And I remember thinking, if I would be guaranteed that I could see him in an afterlife, I would have committed suicide to join him. But I was never sure, that I see him in an afterlife. But
That's heavy.
yeah,
It
but
is.
yeah,
That's
I see.
wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, but nothing ever, I was never guaranteed that there is an afterlife. I had this good friend, this lady, we were best buddies, and when she went around the world, she'd always leave my address to, when she would get letters or correspondence, and then she'd call me up any letters, blah blah blah, and she traveled all around the world. She was crazy, and I was the executor of her estate, and I was the one. She was always afraid that she would be living on a machine, and ultimately,
Oh, and so she wanted someone to call you right away so that they would
right,
know what her wishes were.
yeah,
I thought they were maybe she was wanting you to get a lot of strange requests from people all over the world, but
no,
now I see what you're saying.
but I had a call that made the decision to pull the string because eventually she was going to be living on a machine, but she was brain dead, and they called the family in, and we all said goodbye to her, and when they took out the plug, I swear I saw her soul leave or something leave her body. But to this
you
day,
were
and
special to her.
but to this day, I get letters addressed to her. It's been about 10 years.
Wow.
I'll get letters addressed to her, and I'm sure it's her way of trying to contact me.
Oh,
that's
I
precious.
never heard that story.
But anyway, with that note, yes, we will have you on again, Yolanda, and you have a lot. You have a lot to offer, and I'd like to get more into that whole process of how you counsel people and how you reach people who are of that point where they feel life is futile.
Well, one of the things that I do that helps me is I write a blog. And so if I could, I would share that blog address with you, and you can kind of follow what I'm doing.
Share it.
Because I also share pictures of my beautiful granddaughters.
Well, what I'd like to do is, if we can, and you have the blog, how often do you write? How often do you blog?
Just as the spirit hits me. Yeah, I was at one point. I was writing every day for about a year. And so I've got plenty of things on there. And then, like I said, I had to take 10 weeks off and in addition to that, I had rotator cuff surgery at the beginning of the year. And so that, it's good now. My shoulder's good now. But it was just getting to be a little bit much for every day. Because,
I'll tell you what I'd like to do. And we're in the process of redesigning my website, and you'll see the new and exciting one. But I like to have things in the website that is different from anybody else. What we could do, and I get you in contact with our technical person because I have no idea how you do it. When you have a blog, we could have it done on Malcolm Presents.
Oh, I appreciate that.
This is very serendipitous because all sorts of things are coming together. Malcolm, can you feel it? I mean, this is really vibing here.
And what we'll do is that people can, periodically go to, Wanda Says.
Oh, it's actually called Bridges to Hope.
Yeah,
so
okay, Bridges to Hope,
and
it could be, like just the thought of the day. It does not have to be, a letter that you sit down and write, or it could be thoughtful things. If the night I woke up at 12 midnight.
Here.
I appreciate that. I do. I love to write, so that helps me. And
you send it to our technical people, and they'll put it on the blog, so you don't have anything to do. Just write it, or you can do it with your smiling face.
Oh, I appreciate
that. You can do your own Zoom, and we'll put that on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
of happiness.
Our things is to reach out to people, and especially to people that need help.
Thank you.
Or people that don't need help.
I
can all use help.
But anyway, I thank you. This is the end of it. I thank you very much.
You're welcome. I appreciate your friends the offers.
that you're on Malcolm Presents, and it's Malcolm and we. and you can hear it. You can go just on YouTube, or just go to malcolmpresents.com, and we reach the immediate world. And as I always say in my shows, we reach outer space because our signal, goes into the air. So who knows? Who knows? In 1,000 years from now, people are going to pick it up off of Venus. Anyway, again, thank you again, and I hope to speak to you soon.
Namaste. Thank you so much.
Namaste. Yeah,
thank you.
The objective of the organization, We the World, is to facilitate cooperation on a global scale amongst groups and individuals dedicated to implementing solutions to the many challenges we face on the planet at this time.